Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching you how to make a classic cable sweater, but this time there's a twist. Or two. Puns aside, for this one we wanted to keep it classic, but broke with tradition and decided to add some asymmetrical cable flair because sometimes it's fun to break a few rules. Speaking of, if you love breaking rules with your crochet, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of modern crochet designs and patterns you won't find anywhere else, including new patterns weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado, for this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 1,000 grams of yarn, and that's 1,300 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5 and 6 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite salad. I am always down for a chicken Caesar salad. You can never go wrong with the classics. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, double treble crochet. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting the sweater started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 6 millimeter hook and start off by making an even number chain, the length that is the width of the base of our neck, plus an additional 2 inches. I need a total of 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, so I made a chain 30. Now that we have our chain, we're going to get started on our row 1. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And now we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, and we're going to start by inserting our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook. We're going to bring our hook down, into that chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. There's our first half double. Let's do one more. Yarn over, into that 2nd chain, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Our row 1 is finished. Getting started on our row 2, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. Our chain 2 is also going to be a half double crochet row. So, start by yarning over, find the last stitch from our previous row, and insert your hook into that same stitch. And put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and we should end up with the same amount of chains that we made when we started this section. Our rows 1 and 2 are finished. Now let's get started on our row 3, or our first cable stitch row, so chain 2 and flip your work. So getting started on our first cable stitch detail, we're going to be doing 2 twists, and both of them are going to be done the same way, so let's get that started. They're all going to be done with front post treble crochets, so let's all start with a yarn over of 2. There's 1, there's 2. Each of our cable stitch rows is going to be worked into our previous odd number row, so since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into row 1. Right after we've yarned over twice, we're going to take a look at our row 1. we're going to find that second half double crochet from that row. So making sure that we're not counting that chain 2. This is my first half double. This is my second. So we're going to skip that first half double, and underneath the body of that second half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook underneath and through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That's my first front post treble crochet. And let's do another front post treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over twice. Into that following stitch, we're going to bring our hook down. Underneath that next half double crochet that we have from our row 1, bring our hook through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now from here, to get the twist, we are going to put 1 more front post treble crochet into that skipped stitch. So again, yarn over twice and bring our hook down underneath that skipped stitch. So this may feel a little awkward, but bring our hook all the way down underneath that first half double crochet through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we should all have just 1 loop left on our hook. Now, like I said, we're going to be doing 2 twists, and the second one is going to be done exactly the same way as the one that we just did. So let's do that together a little bit faster. Let's all start with a yarn over of 2. Taking a look at our row 1, we're going to be skipping that following half double crochet, and underneath that following half double crochet, we're going to insert our hook. So we're going to skip 1. Underneath that next half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook down and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through. Yeah, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that that first front post treble crochet is finished, we're going to be doing 1 more into that following stitch. So yarn over twice. Underneath that following half double crochet from our row 1, bring our hook down. Underneath that half double crochet, bring it through the other side. We're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now for our twist, we're going to put 1 front post treble crochet into that stitch that we skipped. So let's all yarn over twice. We're going to bring our hook down, and underneath that skipped half double crochet, bring our hook underneath and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And our first cable stitch detail is done for our row 3. Now that that's finished, we're going to get started on our Alpine stitch detail. So no matter what size we're making, we're all going to start by putting 1 half double crochet into the 7th stitch from our previous row. And we're inserting it into the 7th stitch because we just took up a total of 6 stitches doing our 2 twists. So let's take a look at our previous row, and together we're going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to skip 6 stitches and half double crochet into that 7th. So insert, pull through all 3. And then when it comes to doing our Alpine stitches, they're going to be worked in sets of 2. So it's going to be a half double and front post double. So to do our front post double, we're going to yarn over once. And we're still going to be working into our row 1. So taking a look at our row 1, we are going to be skipping that following available stitch because that half double crochet counts as that half double crochet. And then into that following half double crochet, we're going to insert with a front post double. So we're going to make sure that we're skipping that stitch. Into that following, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull up nice and tall to get the same height as the half double crochet. And from here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left. So we're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Now that is our first Alpine stitch set. Let's do that again. We're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. We're going to skip one stitch from our previous row because the front post double crochet that we did counts as that stitch, and into the stitch right after that, insert with a half double, and now we're going to do our front post double. So yarn over once. Just like the previous set, we're going to be skipping that following half double crochet from our row 1 because the half double crochet that we just did counts as that stitch, and then underneath that following half double crochet, a front post double. So we're going to bring our hook down, making sure that we're skipping that half double crochet. Underneath that following half double, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, yarn over, pull through, pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now we should have a total of 2 Alpine stitch sets. So here is 1 and here's 2. Let's do one more set and then I'll let you guys finish this up. So again, we're going to yarn over. We're going to skip that following stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and into the next stitch insert with a half double crochet. Now we're going to do a front post double, so yarn over, skip that following stitch because that half double crochet that we did counts as that stitch, and underneath the following insert with a front post double. So we're going to bring our hook down, underneath that stitch through the other side, yarn over, and pull through. Don't forget we need to pull up tall, and yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3 Alpine stitch sets. And that's that. From here we're going to continue to do our half double and front post double crochets until we have a total of 6 stitches left, and then I'll meet you back so we can get started on our second cable stitch detail. My Alpine stitch detail is all finished. For those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Alpine stitch sets. And we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches left. Now we're going to get started on our second cable stitch detail. Now getting started on our second cable stitch detail, we're all going to start with the yarn over of 3, which is a front post double treble crochet. So it's all yarn over once, 2, and 3 times. Still working into our row 1, we're going to skip 1, 2, and then insert your hook into that third half double crochet or the 1, 2, 3, 4th stitch from the end. So bring our hook down, we're going to skip 1, skip 2. Underneath that following half double crochet, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And for this second cable stitch detail, our stitches are going to be worked into sets of 2. So we're going to be doing another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times again. Underneath that following half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook down. Bring our hook underneath and through the other side, yarn over, pull through, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that we have that, we're going to be doing another set of 2 front post double treble crochets into those 2 stitches that we skipped. So yarn over 3 times again. We're going to insert our hook into that first stitch that we skipped, so bring our hook down. Underneath that first skip stitch, bring our hook through the other side. Yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, 2, and we should have 1 skipped stitch left, so 1 more front post double treble crochet into there. So yarn over 3 times, bring our hook down. Underneath that half double, through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. And now that we have the twist portion for the second cable finished, we're going to close it off with 1 front post treble crochet into each of the last 2 stitches, but the last one is going to be combined with a half double. So we're going to yarn over twice to do our second to last stitch. We're going to find that second to last stitch from our row 1, bring our hook down, underneath that stitch, pull through. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And now to do the last stitch in our row 3, we're going to yarn over twice again, preparing for a front post treble crochet. We're going to bring our hook down, and into the last stitch from our row 1, we're going to insert our hook, bring it through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So all together, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and when we have those 2 loops left on our hook, we're going to yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row just so we can secure the edge of this row down. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook. And all we're going to do from here is yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. And now our row 3 is complete. Now every even number row is going to be just a half double crochet row. So we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Our row 4, or our half double crochet row, is all finished. Now let's get started on our second cable stitch row, or our row 5, so let's chain 2 and flip our work. So getting started on any of our cable stitch rows, our first 2 twists are always going to be the same. So we're going to start with 1 front post treble crochet, so yarn over twice. Now remember, each of our cable stitch rows is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. Since we're working on row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into row 3. So we're going to skip that first available stitch that we have, and then underneath that second, you may need to pull it apart just a little bit. Underneath that second, bring your hook down and through the other side with 1 front post treble crochet, and then another front post treble crochet into that following stitch, and now for our twist, just like our previous row, 1 front post treble crochet into that skip stitch. So yarn over twice, bring our hook down, and continue to pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now our first twist is finished. Let's get started on our second. So it's going to be done exactly the same way as the first one. So let's all yarn over twice. We're going to skip that first stitch, and then into that following, insert your hook underneath, bring it through the other side, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Underneath that following stitch, another front post treble crochet, and then into that skip stitch, another front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice, bring it underneath, pull through. So our first 2 twists for our row 5 are finished. Now we're going to get started on our Alpine stitch detail. It's going to be done pretty similarly to our previous Alpine stitch detail, but our stitches do need to be staggered. So wherever we see a half double crochet from our previous row, we're going to be inserting with a front post double, and wherever we see a front post double, we're going to be inserting with a half double crochet. And that's how our Alpine stitches are going to be worked, so we get the texture that we want, because if we put a front post double into a front post double, we'll just end up getting some ribbing. So from here, we're going to yarn over. The first stitch from our previous Alpine stitch detail is a half double crochet. So we're going to insert our hook underneath that half double crochet, remembering we're still working into the previous odd number row. Bring our hook through the other side, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops, pull up tall to get the same height, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Next, we're going to put 1 half double crochet into the following stitch. So we're going to be skipping 7 stitches from our previous row and doing a half double crochet into the 8th, and we're skipping 7 because we just took up a total of 6 stitches for our 2 twists, and then our 7th stitch is taken up by our front post double that we just did. So yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. So all together, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 into that 8th, insert with a half double crochet. And that is our first Alpine stitch set. Let's do this again. Yarn over, finding that half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail. We're going to bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. and next a half double crochet, so yarn over. You're going to skip that following stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and half double crochet into the following. And that's it. We're going to continue to do our alpine stitch detail until we have a total of 6 stitches left, and we should all have the same amount of alpine stitch sets as our previous alpine stitch detail. My alpine stitch detail for my row 5 is now finished. Just as a refresher, for those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 alpine stitch sets. And we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches left. Now let's get started on our second cable stitch detail. Now getting started on our row 5's second cable stitch detail, we're going to start by putting 1 front post treble crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So we're going to yarn over twice. Finding that next available stitch from our previous cable stitch detail, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath that first stitch through the other side, and do 1 front post treble. And for our second cable stitch detail, remember I said they're worked in sets of 2. So another front post treble into that following stitch. Now right after that, we're going to be doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochet into the second to last and into the last stitch from our previous cable stitch row. So we're going to yarn over 3 times. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, and inserting your hook underneath that second to last stitch from our previous row, pull through 2, 2, 2, 2, and another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch, which should be the last stitch from our previous cable stitch detail. So yarn over 3 times. Bring our hook underneath through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now we should all have 2 available stitches left. Now we're going to be putting 1 front post double treble crochet into each, working into that window that we made, and the last one is going to be combined with a half double crochet to close off the row. So let's get this started. We're all going to start with the yarn over of 3. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Now from here, we're going to hang on to our working yarn because it can very easily fall off. And all we're going to do is bring our hook down towards us and find those 2 skip stitches into that window that we just made. So we're going to pull our work down and finding those 2 skip stitches. Here's my first, here's my second. We're going to insert our hook underneath that first skip stitch. So bring our hook down and through the other side, yarn over, pull through, and do our first front post double treble crochet per usual. Now that is the first stitch for our second cable stitch detail. Now let's do the last one, remembering it's going to close off with a half double crochet. So again, yarn over 1, 2, 3 times, hang on to your working yarn, and we're all going to pull our work down, finding that last skip stitch, which this is mine right here. I'm going to bring my hook down and underneath that skip stitch through the other side. Going to yarn over, pull through, and now I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We should all have 1, 2 loops left on our hook. So from here, yarn over and insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row to secure down this row. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. And now our row 5 is all finished. Like I said in our previous clip, each of our even number rows is going to be a half double crochet row. So from here, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. We are back and we should all have a total of 6 rows. From here, it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6 until we get the height that we'd like for our sweater to be. Now I'm just going to get started on the following row with you as a refresher, and I'll let you do the rest on your own. So from here, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. So remembering that every cable stitch row is being worked into our previous odd number row, Since we're about to get started on our row 7, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 5. So our twists are always going to be the same. We're going to yarn over twice, skip that first stitch from our previous cable stitch row, underneath that second, bring our hook underneath, pull through 2, 2, 2, into that following stitch, another front post treble crochet, and to finish off the twist, another front post treble crochet, now into that skipped stitch. Now from here, we're going to continue to repeat rows 3 through 6, making sure that we're placing our first row where we want the bottom of the sweater to be, so you can make this cropped, full length, or dress length. We're going to continue on with these rows until this reaches all the way up to about mid-chest. So roughly 2 to 2.5 inches underneath the base of our neck. And I will meet you back right after we finish a repeat of row 5. I am back and the cable stitch detail is all finished up. I have a total of 49 rows and this length is 16 inches or 41 centimeters. And now we're all going to get started on decreasing the left cable stitch portion first. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. So no matter what size we're making, we're all going to start with 4 half double crochets and then a decrease of 2. So yarn over, find that first stitch, and half double crochet. Continue until we have a total of 4 half doubles. Now I have my 1, 2, 3, 4 half double crochets, and into the following 2 stitches, we're going to do a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So we're all going to yarn over, insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through, into the stitch right after that, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. Our first row for our decrease is all finished, so let's chain 2 and flip our work. Now getting started on our second decrease cable stitch row, we're all going to start by skipping the first 2 stitches, and that's the first 2 stitches within the cable. We're not decreasing into the Alpine stitch detail at all. So we're all going to yarn over 3 times. We're going to skip 1, because this is the first stitch within my cable, skip 2, and then we're going to do 1 front post double treble crochet into the next 2. So this is starting off the same way that we would regularly start off our row 3's cable. So skip 1, skip 2, into that next, 1 front post double treble crochet, into that following stitch, another front post double treble crochet, because remember they're worked in sets of 2. And now into those 2 skip stitches, we're going to do a decrease of 2 front post double treble crochets. So that's going to be fairly simple. We're going to yarn over 3 times per usual. We're going to bring our hook down and find those 2 skip stitches. All we're going to do is insert our hook underneath both of those skip stitches instead of just 1. So insert your hook underneath both, and then do your front post double treble crochet per usual. So pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now that is our decrease. And we're going to finish off this cable stitch detail the same way that we normally would. So 1 front post treble crochet into that second to last, and then 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double crochet into that last. So yarn over twice. Into that next stitch, insert, pull through 2, 2, 2, and then into the last stitch, 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double, and we should all already know how to do this. So our row 2 for our cable stitch decrease is all finished. Let's get started on our row 3, so chain 2 and flip our work. Now each of our half double crochet rows is going to be 1 half double crochet into every stitch with a decrease of 2 at the end. So for our row 3, for this decrease cable stitch portion, we're going to have 3 half double crochets and then a decrease. Now we should all have 1, 2, 3 half double crochets and then our decrease. From here we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now to do our row 4 for our decrease, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 front post treble crochet, and that's going to be within the first 2 stitches. So yarn over twice. We're going to find that first stitch from our previous cable row, insert, and underneath that second stitch as well. Yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now that we have our decrease, we're going to skip 1 stitch, which is this decrease from our previous row, and then we're going to put one front post double treble crochet into the next 2 stitches. So yarn over 3 times, skip 1, into that next stitch, which is the second to last, insert with 1 front post double treble, and then another front post double treble crochet into the following, and now we're going to work into that 1 skip stitch that we have. So it's going to be 1 front post double treble crochet, but since it's the last stitch in this row, it will be combined with a half double. So let's all yarn over 3 times, hang on to our working yarn, and bring our work down, finding that skip stitch in through that window. This is my skip stitch right here. I'm going to bring my hook back underneath that skip stitch, pull through, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook, and then combine it with a half double. So yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, insert into that last stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now our row 4 for our cable stitch detail is finished. Let's all chain 2, flip our work, and get ready for row 5. Everyone's row 5 is going to be 2 half double crochets and then a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So my row 5 is finished. I have 1, 2 half double crochets, and then a decrease of 2 half doubles. Let's get started on a row 6, so chain 2 and flip our work. Now getting started on a row 6, we are going to skip 1 stitch and then do a decrease of 2 front post double treble crochets. So yarn over 3 times. Like I said, we're going to skip 1, and then underneath the following 2 stitches, insert your hook underneath both of those stitches, and then do a front post double treble crochet per usual. Then from here, we're going to work back into that skip stitch with 1 front post double treble. And then our last stitch for row 6 is 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double. So yarn over twice. Underneath that last stitch, pull through 2, 2, our row 6 is all finished. Now let's get started on our row 7. Chain 2 and flip our work. Everyone's row 7 is going to be 1 half double crochet and then a decrease of 2. So yarn over into that first with a half double, then our decrease, then chain 2 and flip our work. And getting started on our row 8, we're going to skip that first stitch and then do a decrease of 2 front post double trebles. So yarn over 3 times. Skip 1, underneath that next and the following stitch, 1 front post double treble, and then 1 front post treble into that skip stitch combined with a half double. So yarn over twice into that skip stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then combine it with a half double. Our row 8 is finished. Chain 2 and flip our work to do our row 9. For everyone's row 9, we should just have 2 stitches left, so we're now going to do a decrease of 2 half doubles. When our decrease of 2 is finished, chain 2, flip our work, and we'll do our last decrease row. To finish off our last decrease row, or row 10, we're going to do a decrease of 2 front post double treble crochets that's combined with a half double. So we're going to yarn over 3 times. We should all have just 2 stitches left, so bring our hook underneath both of those stitches, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook, so that is per usual. And now we're going to combine it with a half double. So yarn over, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and our decrease portion is all finished right after our 10th row. We're all going to chain 1 and cut, and then we can get started on the other side. So we have all just finished up the decrease portion of the left side of our cable. Now we're going to do the right side, but just to let you guys know, the amount of rows that I had was 10 for my decrease portion. Those 10 rows for me were just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters, or my total length is 21 inches or 53 centimeters. Now getting started on the right, we're going to flip our work over so that we're looking at the back. Now counting in from the left side, we're going to count in 6 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Insert your hook into that 6th stitch. We are all going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and start with a chain 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch, we just need the height, and this is going to be the same for every size. Now since we're along the inside, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So we're all going to yarn over, and inserting our hook into that same stitch that our chain 2 is in, we're going to insert, pull through, into that following stitch, insert, pull through, and if you'd like to weave in your tail ends at the same time, grab your tail end and just place that in between your hook and your working yarn, and hold it down with your other thumb, and we're going to yarn over, pull through all 4. And now our tail end is in between our stitch, and we don't need to weave it in later. From here, we're going to put 1 half double crochet into the rest of our stitches, and that should be a total of 4 half double crochets for everyone. Our row 1 is finished, so let's all chain 2 and flip our work to get started on our row 2. Now since this side we have 2 twists, we're going to start by doing our first twist the same way that we've always done it. So now that our first twist is finished, we're going to get started on our second. So we're going to yarn over twice, preparing for a front post treble crochet. We're going to skip that following stitch, and then do a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets underneath the following 2 stitches. So underneath that next stitch, and the stitch right after that, pull through 2, 2, and 2. And now we should all have 1 stitch left for this row. So into that skip stitch, we're going to do 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double. So yarn over twice, bring our hook down into that skip stitch, insert, pull through, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. Our row 2 for our right neckline decrease is finished, so let's get started on our row 3. We're going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now for this side, each of our half double crochet rows is going to start with a decrease of 2 and then 1 half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. So for this row, our row 3, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 half double crochets and then do 3 half double crochets after that. And now that our row 3 is finished, we're going to chain 2, flip our work to get started on row 4. So getting started on our row 4, our first twist is still going to be the same. Now that that first twist is finished, we should now have 2 stitches left. Into those 2, we're going to do a decrease of 2 front post trebles combined with a half double crochet, since this is now the last stitch from our row. So yarn over twice. Underneath those last 2 stitches from our previous cable row, insert your hook underneath both of those stitches. And we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. Then yarn over, insert into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through all 4. Row 4 is now finished. Chain 2, flip our work, and finish up our row 5, which is going to be a decrease of 2 half double crochets and then 2 half double crochets after that. Our row 5 is finished, so let's get started on our row 6. So chain 2 and flip our work. Now getting started on our row 6, we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. What we're going to do is prepare for a front post treble crochet, skip the first 2 stitches, and then underneath the 3rd and 4th, which is the last stitch, we're going to do a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets, and now we're going to put 1 front post treble crochet into each of the 2 stitches that we skipped, but the last one's going to be combined with a half double. So to do the first one, we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to find that first stitch from our previous row, insert your hook underneath through the other side with a regular front post treble, and we should all have 1 skip stitch left. So 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double. Now our row 6 is finished. Our row 7, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and it's going to be a decrease of 2 half double crochets and 1 half double crochet. Then chain 2 and flip our work. Our row 7 is finished, so let's get started with our row 8. That's going to be a chain 2 and flip our work. Now for row 8, we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches. We're going to yarn over twice, skip that first stitch, and then into that second and third stitch, we're going to do a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets. And then working into that skip stitch, 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double. Row 8 is finished. Let's do our row 9, which is just a decrease of 2 half double crochets. And now that our row 9 is finished, let's finish this off with our row 10, so chain 2 and flip our work. And now from here, we're just going to do a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets combined with a half double, so yarn over twice. We should have 2 stitches from our previous row, so there's my first, there's my second. Insert your hook underneath both, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. Then yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through all 4. And now our right decrease cable stitch detail is finished. So do a chain up of 1 and cut. So this is what our work should look like when we have the decreased sides of our cable stitch detail finished. Now we're going to get started on our side panels, starting with our shoulder first. So we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side up, and then we're going to be inserting our 5mm hook now into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now from here, we're going to do a single crochet row until we reach the top corner stitch. So we're going to be alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Let's all start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to insert my hook into that top loop, and I like to weave in my tails as I go, so I'm going to place my tail end over my hook and do 1 single crochet. Now into my following side row, this is mine right here, and through that top loop, insert with 2 single crochets. So there is 1. Into that same top loop, there is 2. Let's do this again. Into that following side row, this is mine right here. I'm going to insert into that top loop with just 1 single crochet. And then into that following side row, I'm going to insert into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2. And that's it. We're going to continue this until we reach the top corner stitch, and then I will meet you back. So our single crochet row is all finished. We've made our way all the way up to our last row. Now from here, we're going to continue on with this row by making a chain that reaches all the way up to our shoulder. Now if this reaches all the way up to your shoulder, then you don't need to make a chain. It's really up to you, but I would like just about a half an inch left until I reach my shoulder. So from here, I'm going to make a chain 2, but you make a chain as long as you need, just making sure that this last row that we have for our chest is at mid-chest. So I'm going to start by making a chain 2 to finish off my row 1. And now that I have my chain 2, I'm going to get started on my following half double crochet row. So I'm going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. That's our turning chain, and we're going to flip our work. Now into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a half double crochet. And we're going to make our way all the way down, putting 1 half double crochet into every chain, and also 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Our half double crochet row is finished. Now from here, we're going to do back loop half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases until we get a shoulder portion that reaches the tip of our shoulder. So just to start this following row, chain 2 and flip your work. And all we're going to do is yarn over, find that last stitch from our previous row and insert into that back loop with a half double crochet, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and then repeat. Continue this until we reach the tip of our shoulder, and then I'll meet you back along the bottom so that we can get started on the underarm portion from there. I am back, and my shoulder portion is all finished. Now counting from my first single crochet row, I have a total of 6 rows. My width is just about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, or now my total width is 11 inches or 28 centimeters. And now we're going to get started on our underarm. So first things first, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into any stitch from the top that is in multiples of 3, right where the corner of our underarm is. So I've inserted my stitch marker into the 24th stitch from the top. That's just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. And now from here, we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we have 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. I've put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and we have left 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles. We're all going to start with the yarn over, insert our hook into that second to last back loop, pull through, into that last back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. That is our decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets. Now we're going to start our following row with another decrease of 2 back loop half doubles. So chain 2 and flip our work. To do another decrease together, we're all going to yarn over. Find that last stitch from our previous row and insert into that back loop, pull through. Into that following stitch's back loop, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And at the end of the row, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2 just to decrease together once more. We are nearly finished with our third underarm row. We should have left the last 2 stitches, and we're just going to do another decrease together once more. So let's all start by doing a yarn over and insert your hook into that second to last back loop, pull through into that last back loop, pull through all 4 loops, and now from here it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows until this reaches mid underarm. Now this underarm portion is going to be where the main width of our piece comes from. Now if you'd like a larger size or if you'd like an oversized fit, go ahead and add more rows until your desired fit, or if you'd like a more fitted sweater, do a chain 1 and cut as soon as you reach your mid underarm. But we do want to make sure that we're ending along the top or right after an odd number. So I am back and my underarm portion is all finished. Counting from my first single crochet row, I have a total of 13 rows, and this width is 4 inches or 10 centimeters, or including our cable stitch detail, I have a total of 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Once we have this side finished up, we're going to do the same thing that we did here on the other side. So as you guys can see, I've already finished up the entirety of my front panel, so I'm just going to talk you through it. We're all going to start by inserting our same 5mm hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. We're going to do our single crochet row, making sure to not forget the chain that we made that reached all the way up to our shoulder. You're going to make the same chain as our first side panel. And then from there, we're going to do our back loop half double crochet rows for our shoulder, the same amount of rows as the other side. And then we're just going to repeat the entirety of our underarm as well. When we have that, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And just to let you guys know, the total width that I have for my front panel is 17 inches or 43 centimeters. When we have the entirety of our front panel finished, we can get started on the back panel. So getting started with our back panel, we're all going to start by using our same category 4 yarn and 5mm hook and making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for our last underarm row within the front panel. I had a total of 59 stitches, so here I'm going to make a chain of 59, and I already have my underarm portion finished, so I'm going to be doing a small sample size with you. Once we have our chain, we are going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and we're going to yarn over and into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert with a half double crochet and put 1 half double crochet into every chain, leaving the last one so we can increase together. Now we put 1 half double crochet into every chain, and into that last chain we're going to do an increase of 2. So yarn over, into that last chain, insert with 1, and then insert with 2 half double crochet. When we have that, we're going to get started on our row 2 So we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and we're going to start this row off with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over. Into that last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert into that back loop with 1, and then into that same back loop with 2 half double crochets. And from here, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of this row, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last stitch so that we can increase together once more. So our row 3 is nearly finished. We should all have just 1 stitch left, and we're going to insert our hook into there with 2 back loop half double crochets, and that is our increase. Now from here, it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows as our front panel. Now that we have the underarm portion for our back panel finished, we are now going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we got started with our underarm portion within the front panel. So for those of you that have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 24th stitch from the top. So for my back panel, right after our underarm section, I made a chain of 24. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and we're going to put 1 half double crochet into every chain. So starting with that 3rd chain from our hook, or that chain that we blocked off, insert with a half double crochet, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Now that we've put 1 half double crochet into every chain, we're now going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, working down our body. So if you need to, twist your work, find that last stitch from our body and insert into that back loop, and just make your way down, putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and that's it. At the end of the row, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, and this back panel portion is not going to have any increases or decreases. So all we're going to do is our back loop half double crochet rows until this reaches from the tip of our shoulder, across our back, to the tip of our shoulder. So this back portion should be roughly the same width as our front panels from our first shoulder row all the way across to our last shoulder row. I'll meet you back right after an even number row or along the bottom so we can get started on our underarm from there. I am back and the width of my back panel is all finished. Now I have a total of 42 rows and my total width right here is 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to do our underarm portion, which as you guys can see, I've already done mine, but the underarm portion for the back panel is going to be done exactly the same way as the front panel. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. So when it comes to our back panel, right after our last back panel width row, we should all be along the bottom. So what we're going to do is insert our stitch marker into the same amount of stitches that we did into the front panel right before we got started on our underarm. Then we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch and do a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets into the 2 stitches before our stitch marker. Then after that, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, start our following row with a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch till we reach the end. Then from there, continue to repeat those 2 previous rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows as all of our other underarms. When we have the same amount of rows, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now, for those of you that have my numbers, I have a total of 49 rows and my total width is 15.5 inches or 40 centimeters. Now, once we have the entirety of our back panel finished, we're just going to single crochet across the top of our front and our back panel, and then we can seam everything together. So since we have just finished up our back panel, we're going to single crochet across the top of our back panel first. We're all going to start by inserting our same 5mm hook into the top corner stitch of the back panel. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now working into each of our side rows, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So let's start with our first side row, and this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook into that stitch, and single crochet once. Now into our following side row, this is mine right here, insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and there's 2, and that's it. We're going to continue this working our way across the top of our back panel. When we don't have any more side rows left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we have just finished up single crocheting across the top of our back panel. Now let's do the same thing to the shoulders for our front panel. So same rules are going to apply for the front panel. We're all going to insert our same 5mm hook into the top corner stitch of our shoulder. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. So insert your hook into that top loop for that first side row with 1 single crochet, into that following side row, insert into that top loop with 2 single crochets. And just continue that until we reach our corner stitch. When we reach that, do a chain up 1 cut and then repeat this on the other shoulder portion. Alright, so we have just finished up single crocheting across the tops of both of our front panel shoulders. Now we're going to seam our shoulders together. So let's all start by placing our back panel down first. Then we're going to place our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that we're looking at the back because we want the seam to be along the inside. Next, we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to do a single crochet row, working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. So let's find that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, that next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and we're going to single crochet them together. That's it, let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert, into that next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet, and that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So now that our shoulder seams are all seamed up, we're ready to seam our sides. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam for the shoulders that we did is still along the outside. And then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Next, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to do another single crochet seam. So since we already know how to do this, let's just do the first one. Find that next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So now that everything is all seamed together, the next thing we're going to work on is our collar. So we're now going to flip our work right side out, meaning all of the seams that we have are along the inside, and we're going to be inserting our same 5mm hook into any one of the stitches that we have along the back of our neckline. We are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now we're going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch until we reach our shoulder seam so that we can together work within the front panel. So I just put 1 single crochet into every stitch until I have reached my shoulder seam. Now from here, we have a few stitches to work into, and then a few side rows when it comes to our cable. So into each of our stitches, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch, and that's going to be for the chain that we made, remember, that reached all the way up to the top of our shoulders. I just made a chain 2, so I'm going to put 1 single crochet into each of those, so just 2 single crochets for me. So I've just put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and now we should have the top of our cable stitch detail. That should just be 1 stitch, so just to make sure that we don't miss out on the stitch, we're going to insert our hook into the top of that stitch with 1 single crochet. And now working into each of our side rows along the decreased side of our cables, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets. So let's all start by finding our first side row right here. This is mine. I'm going to insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and there's 2. Again, into that following side row, this is mine right here, insert with 2 single crochets again. So there's 1 and there's 2. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. So since we should all have the same amount of rows when it comes to our decreased portion for our cable, just for this section, for every size, we should have a total of 20 stitches. From there, we're going to work our way across our front panel, putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then working our way up this side of our cable, again, 2 single crochets into every side row, making sure that we're mirroring this side over here. 1 single crochet into the top of our cable stitch detail, 1 single crochet into every chain that we made, and then single crochet all the way across until we don't have any more stitches left. When we don't, slip stitch into that chain space. We have just finished up the single crochet row along our collar. Now we can get started with the length. So right after that slip stitch, we're all going to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for this collar to be. Now, since we want for our collar to be a little bit longer, I'm going to start by making a chain 17, and that's 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. And now we're going to do a slip stitch row. So we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Now into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we are going to insert with a slip stitch. So bring your hook down, into that chain, insert your hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. That is our first slip stitch. Let's do this again. Into that following chain, insert, yarn over, pull through everything. And once more, into that following chain, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through everything. And we're going to continue to put 1 slip stitch into every chain. And a really quick tip, make sure that you're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the falling row can be a little bit too tight to work into. Now that we've put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're now going to slip stitch it into the base. So into that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert our hook in through there, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Now that slip stitch into the base does not count as a stitch, we just needed to connect our row 1. Next, to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base. That also does not count as a stitch. And now we're going to flip our work. And now from here, we're going to be doing back loop slip stitches. So we're going to find that last stitch from our previous row, not those 2 slip stitches into the base, and insert into that back loop. From there, we're going to yarn over and gently pull through both loops. That is our first back loop slip stitch. Let's do another one. Into that next stitch into the base, insert into that back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything, remembering to pull gently. And continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, we are all going to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the base just once more. Alright, so now that we've put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, making our way back down towards the base, we should all have 1, 2, 3 rows. And we're just going to connect it into the base the same way we just did once more, just to make sure we all got it. So find that next available stitch into the base, slip stitch into there to close off our row 3 or any odd number row. Next, we're going to slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base to work our way up to our following row or any even number row. Those 2 slip stitches into the base don't count as a stitch. We are now going to flip our work and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that is it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around our neckline. When we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into, I will meet you back so we can seam everything together. So I've just made my way all the way around with my back loop slip stitch rows. I don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam everything together, and this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam, so let's all make sure that our work is flipped right side out. We're all going to start by finding that first available stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Then we're going to find that next available stitch into the back panel and insert only into that back loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 of those loops. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop, next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and when we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our collar is all seamed up, let's get started with our sleeve. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, and we're now going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our side seam. We're going to start with a single crochet row. So right after we inserted our hook, we're going to do a chain 1, and working into every side row, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So just to find the first one, this is my first one right here, insert your hook in through there. And if you're like me, you should have some tail ends. Go ahead and place that over your hook, and single crochet. Into our following side row, we're going to insert with 2 single crochets. So into that top loop, insert with 1, and then into that same top loop with 2 single crochets. Now we're going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach our regular stitches, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way up until we reach our shoulder seam. So I've just put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making my way all the way up. My last single crochet is worked into the stitch that's nearest to our shoulder seam. And right before we get started on the other side of our armhole, we're going to be inserting our hook into that last stitch and then into the following stitch that we're about to do as well, just so you know where the 2 middle points are. So taking a look at the other side of our shoulder seam, we're going to find that first stitch, insert your hook in through there with 1 single crochet, and go ahead and insert a stitch marker into there as well. These are our 2 middle stitches. Now all we're going to do from here is continue to put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Once we reach the side rows where our underarm is along the back, we're going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into each of those. Now we should have the same amount of stitches on either side of our stitch markers. Slip stitch into that chain space, and then I'll meet you back to work on the length. So now that our single crochet row along our armhole is all finished, the next thing we're going to do is make a chain the length that we'd like for our sleeve to be. So you can make this as long or as short as you'd like. I'd like to have a long sleeve, but also for the edge of it to muffin in a little bit. So I'm going to make this just about an inch past the tip of my wrist. So I'm going to start by making a chain that is 17 inches or 45 centimeters, and that's going to be a chain 75 for me. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. The chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And from here we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Insert into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, with a half double. And we're going to continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain, leaving the last one. So we've made our way all the way down with our half double crochets. We should have all left our last chain, and now we're going to do an increase of 2 half double crochets into that last chain. So we're all going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Into that last chain, go ahead and insert with 1 half double, and then into that same last chain with a second half double crochet. Now that our increase is finished, we're going to connect it into the base. So whenever we connect our odd number row, we're going to count up 2 stitches into the base. So here's 1, here's 2. Into that second stitch, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook with a slip stitch. And that slip stitch that connects our row into the base does not count as a stitch. We just needed to connect it. And we do need to work our way up to the following row. And to work our way up to any even number row, we're just going to slip stitch up 1 stitch into the base. So insert, pull through everything on our hook. That stitch still doesn't count as a stitch, and we're going to flip our work. And now for this portion of our sleeve, we're always going to do an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets into the stitch that's nearest to the base. So yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. We're going to find the last stitch from our previous row, not those 2 slip stitches into the base. So into that last stitch, insert into that back loop, and we're going to insert with an increase of 2. So there's 1, and a second into that same first back loop. From here, just put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, but leave the last stitch just so we can increase together once more. I am back, and I have 1, 2, 3 rows nearly finished. Now we've made our way all the way down with our back loop half double crochet row for our row 2. At the end of the row, we chain 2, flip our work, and made our way back up, putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. Now into the last one, we're going to do an increase. So yarn over, find the last stitch from our previous row, and insert with 1 back loop half double, and then into that same back loop with a second half double crochet. And now we're going to connect it into the base the same way we just did. So we're all going to count up 1, 2 stitches into the base, and we're going to slip stitch into that second stitch into the base. Next, to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base and flip our work. And just to get started on the following row, we're going to start it with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets by inserting our increase into the last stitch from our previous row. And from here, just put one back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And all we're going to do is continue to repeat these 2 rows until we reach our first stitch marker stitch. Our last row should be worked into that stitch, and then I'll meet you back so we can do the decrease side of our sleeve. So I am back. I've made my way all the way up to my first stitch marker stitch. Now from here, we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did here, but instead of the increases into the stitch that's nearest to the base, we're now going to be doing decreases into every row. So for the following row, it may be a little bit different for everyone depending on if you ended at the base like me or along the outer edge. If you ended along the base like me, all we're going to do is slip stitch into the next stitch, just like how we would for our next row, flip our work, and start our following row with a decrease, and I'll show you that in a second. Now, for those of you that ended along the outside, what you're going to do is chain 2, flip your work, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2, and then you're going to decrease into those last 2 stitches, but I'll be showing you guys that in the following clip. So for those of us that have ended along the base, we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, which should be our next stitch marker stitch. I'm going to take my stitch markers out because I don't need them anymore. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that following stitch and flip my work. And since we're along the base, all we're going to do is start this row off with a decrease of 2 half double crochets. So yarn over, and finding the last stitch from our previous row, we still aren't working into those slip stitches worked into the base. We're going to insert into that last stitch's back loop, pull through into that following stitch's back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4 of our loops. And from here, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2 so that we can all do a decrease of 2 together again. So I have made my way all the way up with my back loop half double crochets, left the last 2 stitches, and now we're going to do a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over, insert your hook into that second to last back loop, pull through into that last back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and now just to connect it into the base, which is going to be done exactly the same way that we've been doing, we're going to count up 1, count up 2 stitches into the base, slip stitch into there, and then we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch into the base to work our way up to the following row, flip our work, and then continue to repeat these 2 rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam everything together. So I am back and I have just finished up the decrease side of my sleeve. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it all up together. So let's all make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. So now that our work is flipped wrong side out, we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Next, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to do another single crochet seam. So just to do this together, let's find the first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, first stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our sleeve is all seamed up, we're now going to get started on our cuff. So making sure that our work is flipped right side up, we're going to be inserting our same 5mm hook into any one of the side rows we have along the bottom of our sleeve. We're next going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through. So all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row. So we're all going to chain 1 and find our first side row. This is mine right here, so I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook with 1 single crochet. Again, this is my following side row, into that top loop with another single crochet. And that's it. Continue putting 1 single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way around, and then slip stitch into that chain space. And now that we have our single crochet row finished, we're now going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters, so I'm going to make a chain of 10. So our cuff is going to be done exactly the same way as our collar. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain, do a chain 1, and into that chain that we blocked off with a second chain from our hook, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook with a slip stitch, remembering not to tug too tightly after every stitch. Continue putting 1 slip stitch into every chain. And now that we put one slip stitch into every chain, we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So find that next available stitch into the base, insert your hook into there with a slip stitch to close off our row 1. And just to get started on our falling row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base to work our way up to the falling row. Those 2 slip stitches into the base don't count as a stitch, and now we're going to flip our work. And from here, all we're going to do is put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that is it. We're going to continue to repeat our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I will meet you back to seam everything together. So I've made my way all the way around with my back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into. And now we're going to seam everything together using an outside loop slip stitch seam. So the same seam that we did for the collar. So let's all start by making sure the work is flipped right side out. And we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. And now from here, let's do our seam. We're all going to start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Find that first stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, yarn over and pull through everything, and that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we just did here on the other side. So now that our cuffs are all seamed up, the last thing we're going to have to do is our bottom band. So let's all make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to be inserting our 6mm hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the bottom. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row and 1 single crochet into every stitch. So just to do the first one, we're going to find that first side row, insert into that top loop with a single crochet. Again, into that following side row, insert into that top loop with another single crochet, and that's basically it. Just continue to put 1 single crochet into every side row and 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. And then slip stitch into that chain space. So now that our single crochet row along the bottom is finished, we're now going to do the bottom band, and that's actually going to be done exactly the same way as the collar and the cuff. So let's get that started. Right after we have slip stitched into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. And now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain, do a chain 1 and into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch, and that's basically it. We're going to put 1 slip stitch into every chain, and then we're going to be doing back loop slip stitch rows just like our collar and our cuff. And since we're already experts at that, we're going to continue that, making our way all the way around. Then I'll meet you back so that we can seam everything together. So I have made my way all the way around with my bottom band. I don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're just going to seam it all together. And this is going to be done the same way as our cuff and our neckline seam. So let's get this started. We're all going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, and then we're going to insert our hook into that first available stitch and insert only into that front loop. We're then going to find that next available stitch into the back panel and insert only into that back loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we have just finished up seaming our bottom band and we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. I hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye!